Mm. Last night, I give the Philadelphia 76ers a D as in disappointing for their performance. As you can see, I got a new setup back there. You see, I got an Iverson jersey hung up, and I also got the Eagles banner hung up. Hope you guys enjoyed that new setup. One moment. There it is. There's a look at the setup. Now, let's get right into it. So last night, the Philadelphia 76ers at home at the Wells Fargo Center lost to the Milwaukee Bucks 118-116. Now, it did come down to the wire. There were numerous lead changes throughout the games. Both teams went on runs, but ultimately in the end, the Philadelphia 76ers lost to the Milwaukee Bucks at home. Extremely disappointing because here we were at our home court against defending NBA champions. We went into last night, the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. We ended up losing at home to the Milwaukee Bucks. So now, I'll get to that in a minute. I was going to get to that. It obviously affects the seedings, obviously. But the way we played last night, it was such a disappointment because we had them where we wanted them. Going into the fourth quarter, we were in control of that game. I mean, the Sixers were in control of the Milwaukee Bucks. So we were winning that game. Things were going in our favor. And then, next thing you know, we blew it. Giannis went on a hot stretch late in the game, helped the Bucks win. And, I'm going to give a salute to Giannis. He did his thing last night. He helped his team win, as I expect any elite player to do. So congratulations to Giannis. Congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks on getting it done. But a lot to say with this Sixers game. So let's just get right through it. I mean, early on first quarter, they were playing tight defense against us. We couldn't get any looks. They went on a big run. But then we turned the tide throughout the second quarter, and we took control of the game. We started getting some rebounds, we got a few pass breaks off, and we were scoring some points. And we went into halftime the confident lead, and we kept that lead throughout the third quarter. And it was nice. It was nice to see the Sixers, especially that third quarter. We were feeling good about ourselves because we saw that first quarter. We're like, oh my God, it's gonna be another blow. It's gonna be just like that Celtics game, right around the trade deadline when we got blown out. Remember that game? It was just like that game. At first, it looked like it, but then we turned it around and things were going our favor. And all right, this could be good. We might end up winning this game. But even as the Sixers are winning, I'm feeling like, okay, we got a chance right here to rebound from that loss from the Suns. I didn't get too confident because I had a feeling come fourth quarter time, it might happen. And sure enough, it did. And to quote the late NFL head coach, Dennis Green, they were who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. And that's exactly what happened last night. So if you want to crown their asses, go ahead and crown their asses. Because that's exactly what happened last night with our game against the Milwaukee Bucks. They were who we thought we were. We took the court. We had them where we wanted them. We let them off. We let them off the hook. They came back and they won. So if you want to crown the Milwaukee Bucks, go ahead and crown the Milwaukee Bucks. They won. We didn't. But there's just so many things about this game that was disappointing too, where we could have won this game. Let's start with the shooting. Was one of the main other, beside Doc Rivers, which I'll get to that in a minute. And that's why I put the poll question up there. Is Doc Rivers the biggest problem on the 76ers? So anyone joining in can vote on feel free to vote on that poll right there. Whether or not you think Rivers is the biggest problem with the Sixers. So as I was saying though, but getting back to the point. So first off, the shooting. Here's where we went wrong. We had, let's see, and I wrote this down right here so I can read exactly. Okay, so we had Harden. Harden shot good from the floor. He had his best scoring game with the Sixers with 32 points. That's his best scoring game since joining the Sixers. So he did that well. But what about shooting threes? He was 4 for 10 for threes. So he shouldn't have been shooting that many threes because he was missing majority of his threes. And he was doing better with field goals, and he was doing better inside the paint. So he should have kept shooting there. Because obviously he was being more productive there. He could have drawn some more fouls, even gotten more looks at the line. So that's one thing that could have been done differently too. And Tobias Harris, why was Tobias Harris shooting threes? I know he had a decent scoring game, some rebounds. Like, what was that? What was it exactly? So Tobias had 22 points, 11 rebounds. Okay, solid performance. But he shooting threes, he was awful. He shot 8 threes. He shot 8 threes and he only made, Oh my gosh. I mean, it was ridiculous. He made what, 2 or 3 of them exactly? So he was shooting 8 threes. He couldn't make the it was just ridiculous. Like, why is Tobias Harris shooting threes right here? And not to mention when you had Danny Green, he shot 5 threes and made 3 of them. Why wasn't Danny Green getting more looks shooting threes? From a shooting standpoint, that made no sense right there to have Tobias and Harding shooting threes when they were doing better shooting twos. So that was one thing right there. They screwed up, completely bots right there. That made no sense right there. And another thing that makes no sense about this game, you get to Mr. Doc Rivers himself. Why is Paul Millsap defending Giannis? You're going to really trust Paul Millsap to defend Giannis? What has he done recently that made you that indicated, hey, this is a guy who should be defending the best player on the Milwaukee Bucks, if not the best player in the NBA currently? Why in God's name would you put Paul Millsap on him? I mean, Jesus, it's just unbelievable right there that you would do that. I mean, obviously, you know what happened? You know what happened when they put Millsap on him, right? You remember what happened? Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what happened. They got smoked. They got smoked. Giannis went off for 17 late, and he helped the Bucks secure the win. Is there any correlation, you think, between Millsap defending Giannis and Giannis getting hot late in the game? Oh, looks to me like there certainly is to me. I'm sure some of you guys watch would feel the exact same way. There certainly was. I mean, I know Doc Rivers too, and he said in a press conference he was thinking about putting Paul Reed in there. We were thinking about going with Paul Reed. Right, but we decided we want to go with Millsap. We like what we saw in the first half. Something to that effect. It's not the exact lines he said, but he did say something along those lines. That was the implication he gave. That he was thinking about going with Reed. We ended up going with Millsap. It's like, okay, well, in that regard, we could have at least put, if you're going to put somebody on Giannis, maybe at least try with Paul Reed, because at least, not saying that Paul Reed would have stopped him, but at least Paul Reed could have, would have done better than Millsap. He would have at least put up more of an effort. So that could have maybe helped a little bit. There's that right there. And another thing, too, that we messed up with late in the game when they were making their run, I mean, we waited till the last possession that the Bucks had to draw a foul. Why didn't we try to draw a foul the possession before that or the possession before that? Why don't we wait till the Bucks' last possession to try and draw a foul when we felt game slipping from? We waited that late to draw a foul. Why didn't we try that a possession or two prior? Why? I don't know why we didn't do that. We could have drawn a foul possession or two earlier, but we didn't. George Niang, okay, now credit where credit's due. He made those couple threes late to help keep us in the game, but ultimately didn't pay off. And even then, he wasn't that good shooting either. Get away from the fact that George Niang made those couple threes late in the game to keep us into it. What else did he do? Now, the fact that Niang did make a couple clutch threes late in the game, that makes his lackluster performance outside of that a more forgivable, because he at least helped keep us in the game at the end when it actually mattered most. So that makes his lackluster performance in other areas of the game, first 3 quarters specifically, more forgivable. But as a whole, man, it's just so disappointing. I could point to a bunch of different things that just made absolutely no sense whatsoever, and that played a contributing factor in us losing this game right here. Anyone joining in on this stream, feel free to join in comment section. Say hello. Give me your thoughts on the game. Feel free to ask me a question, whatever the case may be. But I'm really disappointed with the Sixers last night. I mean, yeah, we went out there and we lost by 2 points to the defending NBA champions, which on paper sounds good. But guess what? There's plenty of other things we could have done differently, as I indicated, that could have helped us in this game. I mean, is there anything else? I'm trying to remember. Is there anything else? I think I pretty much did everything I could about main problems. I mean, Doc Rivers is coach. I mean, that's why I asked the poll question. Is Doc Rivers the biggest problem on the 76ers? Because you look at first what he did there, putting Paul Millsap on Giannis, which that backfired. And look at the shooting. It made no sense. Why were Tobias and James Harden, especially Tobias, shooting threes? Okay, Tobias was shooting bricks with the threes. I mean, outside of that, he played a decent game, but why was he shooting threes when that wasn't working in his favor? In Harden, okay, he had his best scoring game, but I think he should have shot more twos and less threes. I mean, that's my opinion personally. I mean, I got okay, Austin the Sportsman, thank you for coming in. You said the biggest problem on the 76ers is James Harden. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that take right there because the way I see it, I mean, as of right now, he hasn't really done anything to really hurt this team yet. I mean, it is possible that James Harden later down the line might quit on the team like he did the Rockets, like he did the Nets, and oh, let's not forget, like he did the Oklahoma City Thunder years ago. So he has a habit of doing it. But as of right now, well, yes, you're right. He does shoot too many threes. I think definitely he should have shot more twos. And yes, he is a ball hog. And yes, he has a history of doing that throughout his career. But I think in this particular game last night, there were other problems too, which is like Doc Rivers coaching, basically putting Paul Millsap to defend Giannis. Why? Why is that the player you rely on to defend Giannis? And is it any wonder Giannis had a great scoring game? I mean, at least if you put someone else on like Paul Reed, at least they could have slowed him down a little bit, made him work a little bit harder to make his shots. I mean, as far as the missing threes goes, I thought they should have had Danny Green shoot more threes because he shot 5 threes. He made 3 of those 5 last night. I don't get why they didn't have him shoot more threes. Another mistake they made was they had Tobias shooting threes when he was worse shooting threes than Harden. I mean, outside of that, Tobias played a decent game, but why was he continuing to shoot threes when he couldn't make it? Just things like that that didn't make any sense. There's a lot of small things that when you look back on, you think, okay, here's at least 3 to 4 different things the Sixers could have done differently and possibly won that game. Go from a close loss to possibly a win. And this was a win they needed too. Because now here we are right now. Yes, we are in playoff. We're in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. Yes. Obviously, we're going to get in. One way or another, we're making the playoffs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We're getting in one way or another. I mean, we still won more games than we lost. We still won a couple games last week. We won last week again, right, against the Lakers and the Clippers. But here's the thing. When we go against good teams, we go against the best teams, like the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks, we always come short. It doesn't matter if you put up a good fight, but if you can't win, what's the point? And one more thing, too, we're still on it. Games are won and lost in the fourth quarter. I always say these tight NBA games, they're always high-scoring games, always won and lost in the fourth quarter. And ultimately, in the fourth quarter last night, the Philadelphia 76ers didn't show up and play as needed to when it mattered most. They didn't. They made it tight, but they gave up too many points, and ultimately they lost. And we still had a chance at the end, but Harden missed the 3. And Embiid got the rebound when he got blocked by Giannis. And originally it was called goaltending, but they reviewed it and said, okay, it was a clean block. And I'm not going to be mad at the referees for that. I'm not going to blame the refs. So I'm going to be mad at anyone. Be mad at the players who didn't show up, who didn't deliver when it mattered most. Be mad at some of the poor decisions made by the coach. That's who really I'm mad at. I'm not going to be mad at the refs at all. And to be fair, it was a clean block. I'll give Giannis credit for that. He did what he needed to do, and he helped the Milwaukee Bucks win. So I've already given him credit, and I'll give credit. The team did a good job. They stuck with it. So I can give those guys credit. It's just, yeah, I mean, and now here we are now. So as of last night, here's what else we can take away from it. It's not just the game itself, but now I'm pulling up NBA. I'm on NBA.com right now on my browser. I'm not going to share it, but I'm going to pull up the playing picture because things drastically changed last night. We went into last night the number 2 seed. Last night when I did my live stream, the NFL and NBA talk toward the end, when I talked a little bit about the Sixers, what happened was I'd said, okay, look, we're the number 2 seed in the East. That's great. But then because of last night and that performance last night, now here was where we are today. We went from number 2 last night. Now, after taking the loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, we've fallen down to the number 4 seed. We went from the number 2 seed with a chance to possibly get the number 1 seed to now falling down to the number 4 seed. It's mainly because of our inability to win these big games. Because now the Bucks won, so they're up to the number 2 seed, and the Celtics they're the number 3 seed as of now. They're continuing their hot streak. It's paying off for them. So that's one thing right. So yeah, obviously these losses and close losses against these big teams are hurting us. And this is why I don't see the Sixers going to the finals at all. They'd be lucky if they make it to the Eastern Conference. You know what? Now that I think about it, forget that. Just forget that I even said that. I don't see it making it past the second round again. I don't see the Sixers going anywhere past the second round. And we can't, now we're at that point now, we can't really beat any good teams. And we beat the Clippers, but they're in the play-in. And they're 37-39. We beat the Lakers, who, oh, by the way, after getting beat by the Mavericks last night, they're not even in the play-in tournament as of now. The Spurs took that number 10 spot in the play-in tournament. And you know what? The San Antonio Spurs have been playing better lately, so they deserve it. But the point I'm getting at is the Sixers always find a way to beat these teams that aren't any good. But when it comes to real games against teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, they don't come through. I had a feeling that this was going to happen, and ultimately it did. So let's take a look at our remaining schedule right now. Okay, so we got, for the 76ers schedule, we got Thursday. Tomorrow night, we travel to Detroit to play at the Little Caesars Arena against the Pistons, 7 p.m. Then Saturday, we play at home against the Charlotte Hornets at 12:30. You know, the Hornets team led by LaMelo Ball, they're in the play-in picture, but they're a team that's barely holding on, so we should be able to beat them. Then we come back the following day, Sunday, 6 p.m. We're on the road at the Rockets Mortgage Fieldhouse against the Cavs, a Cavs team who's fallen out with the Darius Garland's injury. So those are some favorable games right there. We're not playing against the top teams there. So those 3 games you should win. And watch exactly that's what they're going to do. And then they come back after that. Next week on Tuesday, we go on the road at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse against the Indiana Pacers. And then April 9th, we play them at home again. But then, then we go next week on Thursday. So 8 days from today, we play the Raptors I apologize for butchering, at Scotiabank Bank Arena. Play the Raptors on the road. Then we come back Saturday the 9th, play the Pacers at home. The following day, which is not this upcoming Sunday, but the following Sunday, April 10th, we play the Pistons at home, and that's our remaining schedule right there. And most of those games are relatively easy games, so don't be surprised if the Sixers go on an 8-game win streak or win 6 out of 8 or 7 out of 8 the remainder of the season. Now they got favorable games on the schedule. I mean, because out of that right there, who's the toughest teams out of there right there? On paper, the Raptors are the best team out of all the teams we're playing the rest of the way on paper. But don't even be surprised if we lose 1 or 2 games we should win in that stretch. It's just one of the biggest things is, even with all the talent we have, we always find a way to blow it. You know, we got stupid matchups right there, whether it be like Paul Millsap on Giannis, as I keep indicating, or whether it be keeping guys like Embiid and Maxey on the bench throughout most of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, which is the fourth quarter where games matter most, thus putting us in a position where we're down going into the fourth in some cases, or in some cases making it tighter and having to rely on our talent to bail us out in the fourth quarter when they finally do get playing time. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. You've seen enough Sixers games. You know what I'm talking about, where they keep guys like Embiid and Maxey on the bench for a while, and then they bring them in all of a sudden when it matters most, and somehow we find a way to just barely skate by. So it's stupid stuff like that that usually ends up costing us a lot of these games. It is. And right now, so we look at our schedule, I think the toughest team right there on that schedule at these remaining 8 games I listed off are the Toronto Raptors. That's the toughest one right there. It's just, yeah. So, I mean, we're still going to make the playoffs, but this game last night proved that we cannot beat these good teams. And my confidence in the Sixers that they're going to make a run this year, which I had confidence at best they were going to make it Eastern Conference Finals. But even when I was saying that, I'm not going to lie. Deep down inside, I had my doubts that they were even going to make it that far, even when I was coming on here saying it. But after last night, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to try to say that. I'm not even going to try to confidently say that we could make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think we're making it at best, second round again. So like we're the second round curse is what it feels like. And ultimately, and the reason I keep going on about this is because it's those games right there against the top teams like the Bucks, teams like the Phoenix Suns. We ultimately see how good a team really is. And ultimately, we've lost a couple times to the Suns, lost to the Bucks a couple times. Now, the first time we lost to the Bucks back in November, it was like, okay, most of our guys are out with COVID. We at least put up a fight. Okay, I respect that. And people will say, oh, well, we beat the Miami Heat. Yeah, we did beat the Miami Heat. Okay, I'll give you that. Without, Embiid and Harden, we had Maxey carrying the load. But you know what? That's just one game. There's no way we could beat the Heat in a best-of-7 series without those guys. I don't think there's the way they're playing lately against good teams. I don't think they could beat the Miami Heat in the best-of-7 series. I have my doubts there. And who do they get in the opening? As of right now, it's like 4 versus 5. We get the Bulls if the season ended today in the opening round. Okay, I'm sure we could beat the Bulls in a best-of-7 series. We've had no problem beating them this entire season. And you know what? The Bulls are a team similar to us. They win. They have good talent around them. They win games, but they struggle to beat all the good teams. And as of lately, we're playing similar to the way the Bulls are, where we struggle to beat good teams. So, I look at the schedule. I see teams like the Hornets. That should be a win right there. The Pacers, the Pistons, those should definitely be wins right there. And the Raptors, they were the number 6 seed right now. That's probably the toughest game, toughest opponent we have left on the schedule as of now. But yeah, disappointing game last night. You saw the coaching, a lot of the decisions, having the guy. Why were you relying on guys that weren't doing good shooting threes to continue to shoot threes? And you let the Bucks off the hook again. You were in control of the game, and this is why you can't keep letting teams off the hook. You might be able to get away with it against the Cavs. Might be able to still get the win. You might be able to get away with it against teams like the Hornets or the Pacers and still win, but you can't get away with that against teams like the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks. It's disappointing, man. And the Sixers in the fourth quarter, they falter in these big games. In the fourth quarter is where games are won and lost. But as of right now, man, I think we should probably win at least 6 of our 8 remaining games. We should. So I'm thinking we're going to do good with winning our remaining games. But after these last couple games, I have my doubts when it comes playoff time. We got to play against the real teams. And as of right now, I said if we'd season in today, we'd play the Bulls. I think we can beat the Bulls in the best-7 series. We had no problem beating them in the regular season. As long as Harden, Maxey, and Embiid are on the court, I think we could beat those guys in the best-7 series. But what happens second round? We got to possibly play the Miami Heat in a best-of-7 series. Those are questions we got to ask ourselves right here as Sixers fans. Is it possible we could do it? And I have a lot of doubts. I really do. And while I'm still on here, we're going to talk a little bit more about the NBA as a whole. So let's see what else. So what else do we got going tonight in the NBA? Well, we're still on that subject. Okay, so we got the Mavs and the Cavs right there. I'm thinking the Mavericks are going to beat them based off the Cavs' cold streak they've been on. Nuggets and Pacers, it should be a win for Nugget. Oh, well, you got the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics tonight at the TD Garden, 7:30. That's an interesting game because now the Celtics are up to the number 3 seed right there. So that could possibly have some play. That's a game that can have some playoff implications, possibly a preview of an upcoming playoff series. The Hornets, who we play on Saturday, are playing the Knicks at Madison Square Garden tonight. It should be a win for the Hornets, but we'll see what happens. And there's not really any significant not really any significant. Oh, we got the Warriors and Suns at 10 p.m. on ESPN. Warriors are home for that game. That looks like that could be just an interesting game. And then you get, so what else? You got that right there. And the Lakers, they've fallen out of the playoff picture completely in the West now. The Spurs are the number 10 seed, and they have a shot at the play-in. At this point, they deserve it more. the way they've been playing. Yeah, with the Sixers, man. I mean, where is that? Yeah. So with some of the stuff with the Sixers right now, though, I mean, I don't really see. There's not much else to really say right now except it's real disappointment. I mean, with Doc Rivers as their coach, I don't see them making a run for the finals at all. At least not with Rivers on their coach. But even then, let's not forget Harden too. And yes, I'm going to bring in Harden into this because he has a habit of disappearing in the playoffs too. So come playoff time, a guy like Harden who has a habit of underperforming in big games, you're going to need to rely on him to help you out in the playoffs. You're the Sixers. I don't know if he can do it based on history, the way he plays in those situations. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. So I have my doubts there. Just a lot of stuff right now that, yeah, just last night really just made the Sixers, lost a lot of optimism about him. I mean, this point, I don't know if you're going to even be able to keep Doc Rivers past this season. I mean, some of the moves he's made, some of the boneheaded moves, I mean, such as putting Paul Millsap on Giannis. Some of the stuff he's saying in his press conference, he said he wanted to put Reed on, but he didn't. It's like, well, if you, it's just like, Doc, why didn't you just do that if you, because clearly it would have worked better. He would have at least stood a better chance. He would have, but he didn't. I mean, the Sixers just, yeah, I mean, at this point, they're a team. They're just a playoff elimination waiting to happen, is what I see with this team. And I don't think Doc Rivers is the answer. I mean, I always had my question marks about Doc, even when the fans were last year praising him when we had that run. This was coming off Brett Brown years. All of a sudden, we had our best regular season in 20 years, and all of a sudden, people were praising us. We finally the number one seed for the first time since 2001, and everyone was praising us. Like, yeah, Doc Rivers is the answer. But I'm like, he has a habit of blowing it in big games, and he has a habit of underperforming and underachieving with the talent he has around him, and that's been a habit throughout his entire career. And here you are this year. And here you are this year. It's happening again, even with the talent he has around him. He's underachieving. In big situations with Doc Rivers as the coach, the Sixers fall short. I mean, it just happened again last night, but congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, last night took away from the Sixers, man. They got to trust their shooters, their three-point shooters. Like their Danny Greens, they got to trust those guys more at the threes. You can't trust Tobias with threes. Stop trusting him on that. Doesn't work out. And even, one more thing I forgot to mention. Tyrese Maxey, he had a cold night last night. Now, I'm not going to go on Maxey too hard, but I'll forgive him because, I mean, everyone has their off night. So I'm not going to get too mad at Maxey, but in a game where we came up short, if Tyrese would have played just a little bit better, we could have possibly done enough to win. So that's another thing I consider too. I mean, I'm not going to get too mad at Maxey because everyone has their bad games. Other than that, Maxey's been balling, so I'll forgive him for that, but still disappointing, man. It's just an all-around disappointing performance from the Sixers, and I don't really have much else to say right now. To everyone that tuned into the stream, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. Even if you're watching it after the recording, hope you enjoy. Feel free to leave a comment. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Feel free to share this. Most of all, have a wonderful day or night. Nikki Steve signing off, and I'll see you next time.